Hello, my name is Reverend Dr. May Elise. Today is Saturday, June 7th, 2025. Today is day 610. 610 days since October 7th, 2023, the attacks by Hamas in the south of Israel. More than 600 days of deaths and bombings in Gaza, hostages being held. An update in the last 24 hours or so, particularly related to Gaza. In a bid to foster local opposition to Hamas, Israel is arming a small Palestinian militia that controls territory in southern Gaza. Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu confirmed this in the last 48 hours, saying that this saves the lives of Israeli soldiers. An Israeli official confirmed the Israeli military has armed the head of the militia, Yasser Abu Shabab. Shabab denied the claims, stating that he's backed by the Palestinian Authority, but the PA has not commented as of the time of the writing, and a spokesperson for its security forces said the group does not possess any weapons in Gaza. This was a report that was in the Wall Street Journal. An Israeli airstrike on Ali Hospital in Gaza City on Thursday killed 5 people, 2 journalists, and a third person. According to the Anglican Church, the Episcopal Diocese of Jerusalem condemned in the strongest possible terms the attack, which also injured dozens of bystanders. The Israeli military said that it precisely struck a Palestinian Islamic Jihad, quote, terrorist, end quote, operating from a command center within the hospital's yard. Churches for the East Peace put out a statement also condemning those attacks. The rate of children in Gaza suffering from acute malnutrition has nearly tripled since the ceasefire earlier this year, according to data that was collected by humanitarian groups and released by the United Nations. Meanwhile, the U.S.-based Gaza Humanitarian Foundation did reopen 2 sites on Wednesday afternoon, a day after pausing its work because of the fatal shootings close to its operations. The GHF said 26 truckloads of food were distributed in the Rafah area, that it was looking to open more sites in northern Gaza. The amount of aid that is being allowed into Gaza is abysmally small and is so inadequate in terms of meeting the crisis and the needs that are there. The head of Hamas in Gaza said in a pre-recorded speech yesterday that the group did not reject the most recent U.S. ceasefire proposal, but instead, quote, demanded some remarks and improvement to ensure an end to the war, end quote. Doctors in Gaza are now donating their own blood to help save patients after dozens of Palestinians have been killed while trying to get food over the past week. Doctors Without Borders reported that this week. In Lebanon, the Israeli military struck Hezbollah's drone factories in South Lebanon and in the suburbs of Beirut. As you know, there's supposed to be a ceasefire between Israel and Hezbollah. The Israeli strikes, which came on the eve of Eid al-Adha, represented its most significant escalation since that ceasefire began, which was in November of 2024. Now, there were no initial reports of casualties, a spokesperson for the Lebanese Ministry of Public Health said. Hezbollah has not commented at the time of writing, although a Hezbollah official denied that there were drone production facilities at the targeted locations. The Lebanese army condemned those airstrikes on the outskirts of Beirut, warning that such actions undermine the military's role and could eventually lead to the suspension of its cooperation with the U.S.-led committee that is overseeing the ceasefire. We just heard today from our CMEP partner in the UK called Embrace the Middle East. They shared an update from Christians in Lebanon saying is there ground for optimism. Wissam Nasrallah, who's the chief operations officer of one of their partners, wrote a blog saying that there's now a renewed sense of hope in this country, but it's cautious hope. We've been optimistic before, only to be disappointed. His caution was sadly prescient as news broke about the June 5th bombing and Israeli airstrikes that struck Beirut. Wissam Nasrallah said a few days after the Lebanese ceasefire, the Assad regime fell. In a sense, 13 years of Syrian war ended in 13 days. None of us expected that. It was a complete surprise. We did not see this coming. Many Syrian refugees in Lebanon went back to their family members, to their homes, to their properties. But most of them came back to Lebanon because they actually had nothing to go back to. The aftermath of the regime change led to several incidents of sectarian violence in Syria, especially among the Alawites and the Druze, and this led to the arrival of Alawite refugees in North Lebanon earlier this year in 2025. The Alawites live in Lebanon on the Mediterranean coast and in the western part of Syria. Also in Syria, a BBC Arabic team which left Damascus for a planned trip to the Golan Heights were reportedly detained by Israeli forces. They were blindfolded, strip searched, and threatened. The officer threatened us with worse consequences if we approached the frontier from the Syrian side again. They said that they didn't know anything about us and they would track us down if any hidden or undeleted photos were ever published. That was BBC News. Related to Iran, Israel assured the U.S. that it would not strike Iran's nuclear facilities unless President Trump indicated that diplomatic efforts with Tehran had collapsed. This was published in Axios. We calmed the Americans and told them there is no logic in launching an attack if a good diplomatic solution can be found. That's why we're going to give it a chance to wait with any military action until it's clear that negotiations have been exhausted, and referring to the White House envoy, Steve Witkoff, to wait until he's given up. That was an Israeli official. Iran reportedly ordered thousands of tons of ballistic missile ingredients from China, according to sources, as Tehran looks to strengthen its military capabilities amid the talks with the U.S. over the nuclear program. Shipments are expected to arrive in Iran in coming months, and some of the material may be transferred to Iran-aligned regional militias, including the Houthis in Yemen, according to sources. Western countries are preparing to table a resolution at an upcoming meeting of the UN nuclear watchdog, declaring Iran in violation of its safeguard obligations for the first time in 2 decades, a senior Western diplomat said yesterday. The draft resolution is expected to be submitted jointly by France, the UK, and Germany with the United States. And in the U.S., an unprecedented move, the Trump administration imposed sanctions on 4 of the judges of the International Criminal Court. As ICC judges, these 4 individuals have actively engaged in ICC's illegitimate and baseless actions targeting America or our close ally Israel. That was a statement coming from Secretary of State Marco Rubio, referencing the tribunal's decision to issue an arrest warrant for Netanyahu and former Defense Minister Gallant, and its previous investigation into alleged war crimes by U.S. troops in Afghanistan. A man accused of yelling "Free Palestine" and firebombing demonstrators, calling for the release of Israeli hostages in Gaza. This was that Boulder County, Colorado incident. Horrific attack. There were 118 counts, including attempted murder, were charged by the district attorney in the Colorado court late this week. And an update on the luxury Qatari jet that Trump said he's receiving as a gift from the Qataris to use as the new Air Force One. Probably less than $400 million to retrofit the luxury Qatari jet. And Middle East Concern published a report today about Iran. Layla Sati, 46 years old, was released from Evin prison. She'd spent 2 years for acting against national security by connecting with Zionist Christian organizations. She was given a 2-year travel ban as a condition of avoiding contact with the media and contacts outside Iran. Layla had applied for asylum in Malaysia. She returned to Iran in 2017 to be with her elderly parents. She was frustrated that she couldn't receive asylum. And on February 13th, 2024, she was arrested at her father's home in Tehran. She was subjected to intense interrogation for 3 weeks. There were photos and videos of her baptism and Christian activities in Malaysia, and those were used as evidence against her. She was brought before a judge in March of 2024 and denied medical treatment in prison, and there have been concerns about her mental health and well-being. So we're praising God that Lale has been released and asking for prayer that God would strengthen, restore, and heal her after this period of 2 years of trauma in prison and the treatment that she endured, like believers alongside of her who have solid claims for asylum on accounts of their Christian identity, but have not given protection without undue delays. The Iranian authorities will stop treating citizens as criminals. That's our prayer, because of their religion or their belief. And finally, blessing to Muslims around the world who've been celebrating Eid al-Adha, al-Azha this weekend, known as the Feast of Sacrifice, a significant Islamic holiday that commemorates the willingness of the Prophet Ibrahim Abraham to sacrifice his son. Muslims believe that the sacrifice was of Ishmael as an act of obedience to the commandments of God. It's a time of religious observance, prayer, community gatherings, a celebration of faith, and submission to the will of God. May we also submit to the will of God. May he go before us in our efforts towards peace. In the name of Christ. Amen.